A lot of customers were from the Hasidic Jewish community. They would come up to me and they would either be speaking like Yiddish or Hebrew to me. And I would go, I'm so sorry, I don't speak that. And they're like, oh, okay, sorry. But you're Jewish. No, I'm not Jewish. And I remember specifically, this happened a few times. The moms were like, what? What are you?
Yeah.
And they would look at me like going like, honey, are you lost? Did you get kidnapped? It happened enough that I was just like, okay, something is off.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
Welcome to the Man-Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all the bleach blonde, bad built butch bodies out there. There's your new song of the summer. This is Billy Persida, and you're listening to the Man-Whore Podcast. Can the queer chicks just clarify for me, is butch body associated with just being like jacked and really strong? Because I always felt like it had far more to do with like mass. Like a mask amount of mass on a babe who carries 3 different types of straps in her bag. I don't know. That's just what I thought a butch body was. I didn't think it was. But it's still a great own by Jasmine Crockett. Check the link in the show notes if y'all have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. You missed out. It is Washington, D.C.'s version of a Kendrick and Drake beef. But I digress. Welcome to the show, everybody. This week, part 2 with comedian Laura High. Wasn't last week adorable? Wasn't it beautiful? Didn't you want to vomit just a wee little bit at how cute that love story was? Right? As I announced last week, Laura and I, we went almost like an hour and a half, and I didn't feel right about putting anything behind the paywall, but at the same time, they were like 2 distinct episodes in one. So I chopped them up, and so you got the love story last week. But the other thing is, Laura is not only a comedian and TikTok creator, she is a sperm donation reformist. She is a fertility activist. And so in this episode, we're going to talk a whole lot about sperm. Millions of dollars worth of sperm. Not only her revelations of being a donor-conceived baby, but also, what reforms need to happen in this industry and the abuses that take place. More on that in just a little bit. But first, if you missed Hot Movie Night last week, I think I'm speaking mostly to the Patreon people. But oh my, did you miss a Hot Movie Night? Hot Movie Night is our monthly gathering over on the Discord server where Patreon people, we watch a retro era porno film. And we watched the 1972 flick, The Godmother. And I don't know what to say, but I'm just going to let members of the Champagne Room express what you missed. This was an insane movie that opened with a heroin overdose. It's like 50 years ago, somebody in a porno theater saw the film open with a blowjob by a woman who then immediately ODs on heroin. And like a bunch of dudes like maintained erections through that. So I'm going to give you like a few out of context Hot Movie Night comments just to give you an idea of what you're missing here. Precious Bodily Fluid said, maybe if they showed McGruff getting a blowjob, kids would stay away from drugs. Petite Sarah wrote, okay, I hate to be the technical one here, but didn't she inject Nick with air? The syringe was empty. She drew back air, then injected him, right? And the Captain, he wrote, if that's the same woman from the last scene, she's been sucking dick for like 60% of this movie. She's due a union break. I'm just saying, Hot Movie Night is like one of the hottest nights of the month, and you should be there. And you gotta be a member of the Patreon community to join us. And you can become a member for as little as $3 a month and get access to ad-free episodes at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And for the fan whore appreciation moment, I want to say thank you to Kara. Kara, you're a Jersey girl. It very well could be Kara. Let's go to the mall. Maybe I'll pass you on the turnpike. Kara. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for supporting the Man Whore Podcast on Patreon. I hope you're enjoying your access to over 300 bonus episodes. Although I can possibly guess which particular bonus episode first drew you in. My room is like the cleanest I think it's ever been right now. I had a first date last night as of this recording, and I have never cleaned a room like I've cleaned a room wanting to impress a 41-year-old woman who has like her shit fairly together. When I hear about, dudes who like, when women like complain about like guys who have a mattress on the floor, that says to me like they fuck a lot of like 24-year-olds. Because I feel like a 24-year-old woman, if they meet like a guy who seems successful, but they get back to his apartment and it's like in utter shambles, and he's got like posters taped to the wall, and he has like 2 pieces of furniture, and the fridge is empty. I feel like they'll write that off and be like, oh my God, it's totally fine. Like, because they don't have the standards. But like a 41-year-old woman who's been around, like she's got standards. And as I frequently said, a 41-year-old knows how to fuck far more than her 21-year-old counterpart. So, I washed my doors. I didn't know that was a thing I was supposed to do. I just thought like, oh, whatever. The management, the landlord will clean that up whenever I move out of this place. Why would I clean a door? I found myself scrubbing 2 different doors just so she didn't think I was like embarrassing. I got like wood polisher, and I was just like polishing anything that was wood in this place. I cleaned up all the cum off the floors. Like I dusted. I bought a new pillow. I bought like a new adult person pillow. Like a $100 pillow. Guys, you don't have to drop a ton of money on like expensive first dates. You don't have to take someone out to like a $200 dinner. Just like make your home not embarrassing. And then you too can have sex till 4:30 in the morning. As I said, Laura, hi. This second part, this episode, we are talking all about sperm donation. And if you want to take in more of Laura's content about this topic, you can head on over to her TikTok, Laura High 5. That's with the number 5. And she has her very own podcast about sperm donation. It's called Insemination. But now, the rest of my conversation with Laura High. Enjoy ad-free episodes at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast.
Oh, thank you. No, he deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, like you have me tearing up a couple times during this.
Oh, yay!
Stop! I did not. That's not what I thought we were going to come back. I thought we were going to talk about cum so much more.
We can talk about cum.
Yeah, cum's kind of like your thing now.
Cum is my thing. I am all about sperm. I am all about sperm. I have like 3 different sperm costumes now. Because of how much, like, the amount I know about fucking sperm, and it's just like, yeah, no, that's all I talk about now. Do you know what it's like talking to politicians about masturbation? Because I do. Who's the biggest politician you've had to talk about jacking off to? I can't say that yet. I can't say, unfortunately. But definitely, some bigwigs. Okay. And that's always very fun.
Well, so for those who don't know, like Laura's, blew up on the TikTok with talking about you were a sperm donor baby.
Yep.
And that kind of... You weren't like doing like activism really with it before. You were just doing comedy about it.
I did comedy.
That's what I always remembered.
Yeah,
and then on TikTok, when everything blew up, then like you've become like a sperm donor reform activist.
I'm arguably, I would think it's probably in between, probably Jacoba Ballard, who is like, I don't know what the right word is, star. Jacoba Ballard is if you've seen the documentary Our Father on Netflix about the doctor switching out the chosen donor sperm for his own. So her and I are probably the most publicly well-known donor-conceived advocates worldwide at this point. So it's her and I. And she's lovely.
I didn't even know that there was like reform that needed to be.
Dude, neither did I. I didn't know it either until I was like 30.
So when did you find out that you were donor conceived?
When I was 14.
Okay. And did that have an effect on you?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it did and it didn't. I would say other things about the donor conception had an effect on me. I mean, it definitely, when I found out, it was like, I swear, I in my head, I was like, I fucking knew it! I knew something was up. But, I mean, for me, it was... I didn't really know fully what the whole world of that meant, but to me it was like, oh, wow, this explains a lot. But for me, very much, my dad was my dad. Like, that didn't change my perception on my father in the least bit. It definitely did make me really realize, like, oh, these are like the genetic commonalities I have between my mom and my mom's side and me. Where do I get these, features from? So it definitely made me very aware of that, as to like, where do I come from? It did make me aware that maybe something is like a little bit missing, but it wasn't something that I would say like was ruling my life, but it always kind of sat there. I was 19 and I was talking to like some college friends and I was like, yes, I'm sperm donor baby, blah, blah, blah. And one person asked like, do you know who the donor is? And I'm like, no. And they're like, do you know anything about him? And I was like, well, we were told that the donor was going to be just like my father, Irish and Scottish. But they said like he was an Ivy League doctor, very
healthy. Was that like purposeful to find someone kind of similar? That
was what the clinics were telling all of the recipient parents at the time.
Well, what I meant was like, was it important to your parents to find someone, a donor who's kind of like your dad?
Not real. I mean, they liked the idea that he was going to be similar to my dad. Okay. So like maybe I would like kind of have some resemblance to him as well. But it wasn't like number one priority. They were kind of like, okay, cool. That sounds nice. We like that. But so when I was 19, one person pointed out to me, they were like, if you don't know the medical history of your donor, like medical shit is like kind of genetic. And I went, oh. And I kind of then allowed myself to start sort of thinking about who my donor was. And I started just looking up like Ivy League doctors in New York, going like, is this him? Is this him? He's like my dad. He has to be like Irish Scottish. Okay. So like looking up. And then I knew who my parents' doctor was who inseminated me. And so I kind of just like, me being 19 just was like, I'm just going to call him. So I called him up. And I remember it was so weird. I didn't like figure out how to do this. His secretary picked up and she was just like, hi. And I was like, hi, I need to make, I have an appointment with Dr. Bloody Blue. And she was like, oh yeah, what's your name?
You look like a Bloody Blue.
You look like a Bloody Blue. And I remember and I didn't really think past like, how the hell do I get him on the phone? So eventually I was just like, okay, this charade isn't working. So I told her, I was like, my name is Laura High. I am the daughter of Mrs. High. I need to talk to Dr. Bloody Blue. He should know who I am. The reason that I knew he knew who I was is because my mom did tell me I was his very first patient. So I was like, I was like, okay, he's going to remember. I think 2 minutes passed, 2, maybe 3 minutes passed. It was not long. He picked up the phone and I remember there was an immediate like shift. And he just went, hi. And I went, hi, my name is Laura. I'm, Miss High's daughter. I'm like, do you know who I am? And I will never forget this for as long as I live. He said, yeah, I know who you are. And I just suddenly went, oh, there's a lot more here that I don't know about. And I remember it was just such a shift. And I said, okay. And I was like, look, I'm just wondering if there's any way to find out who my donor is, if I can find out medical history or anything like that. I'm just curious. Like at that time, like a different relative got diagnosed with like Parkinson's. And I was just like, I'd like to just know like cancers, anything. And he was like, well, you're from an anonymous donor, so I wouldn't be able to tell you his identity no matter what. But I don't even know his identity because he's from a bank that doesn't exist anymore. All of the paperwork went up in a fire, so it's all gone. But I can tell you he's healthy and there's nothing to worry about. Even at 19, I was like, this is such bullshit.
I feel like I'm supposed to have like done proper research and know all this stuff from a TikTok, but like all I know about was that you are donor conceived. I actually do not know the story, so I'm experiencing this in real time.
Oh, no, I am more than happy to share this. So then I sat with that for a long time. And then it was really, a lot of it is through comedy where, so like I'm walking around thinking I'm Polish from my mom's side and then I'm Irish Scottish from my donor's side. And everyone who I met in comedy was kind of like, so you're Jewish, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like,
you're not Jewish?
Well,
I feel
we'll get there.
I feel like I asked you this 10 years ago. Sorry.
I know, you probably did. You're like, so you're Jewish. And I'm like, no, I'm Irish, Scottish, and Polish. And I kept saying that. Do you remember the Times Square in, the Toys R Us in Times Square?
Yeah.
So I used to work there. And I remember we had a lot of customers were from the Hasidic Jewish community. They would come up to me and they would either be speaking like Yiddish or Hebrew to me. And I would go, I'm so sorry, I don't speak that. And they're like, oh, okay, sorry. But you're Jewish. no, I'm not Jewish. And I remember specifically this happened a few times. The moms were like, what? No, what are you?
Yeah.
And they would look at me like going like, honey, are you lost? Did you get kidnapped? And it happened enough between a lot of the stand-up comics, those customers, that I was just like, okay, something is off. All right. And now we're starting to think, was the doctor maybe not honest? Were there some lies? We don't know.
Your parents don't know either.
No, they were told that my donor was going to be like my father. And my mom and my dad were like, that was something they were very strict on. And they said specifically the thing that they were most strict that they had to match the donors on was religion. That the donor and the dad had to be the same religion.
Okay.
I don't know why. It was the fucking 80s. Apparently, you know, the difference between like Catholic and Protestant sperm. Big ass fucking difference, apparently. Weird. And my mom, like, my parents didn't give a shit, but they were like, the clinic apparently was very like, no, we have to do it this way. And my parents were like, okay, fine. So then I took a DNA test, probably around like 27 years old, and we found out that I am 50% Ashkenazi Jewish. And we went, and when my mom took one as well, she doesn't have a lick of Ashkenazi, not even 1%, nothing. And it was like, oh, well, there it is. And there's the lie. And that kind of was like a little in the back of my head of just going, oh, shit, something's off. Something's okay. We've got a lie here. Interesting. And that just kind of sat with me for a while. Then eventually the next year, I got matched on Ancestry with my donor's cousin. And through her, we figured out who my donor was. My donor is an OBGYN, Orthodox Rabbi Moyle.
Oh, it wasn't the doctor you called.
No.
Red herring in the movie. Wow. Okay, cool. I like it though.
No. I'm not
a good plot point. No, it's
not a victim of fertility fraud.
No, but it should stay there. That's good because we've all felt the tension. It was like, is it him? And yeah, this is good.
No, it was not him. I mean, he did lie, but no, it wasn't him. Yeah, it was his buddy.
Oh, okay, I see.
It was his buddy. But yeah, so and I was like, holy shit. So I wrote him a letter. I went and literally dropped it off at his office because I was too scared to put it in the mail. And then another year later, he never got back to me. But another year later, I got a message from someone who said, hi, I know this is so weird, but I think you're my sister. And I went, I have a bloody fucking sister? What? And she was like, actually, you have 3. And I was like, what? And I literally, I think I was on the phone with her within that hour. And it was insane going, I have sisters, I have siblings. And then from her, we found out, so I was born in 1988 and she had found another sister that was born in 1983. And now, and then, and I was a fresh donation. So we know that
I'm sorry, what's that mean?
Fresh versus frozen donation. Okay. Yeah, so my
feels like they should come up with a better term.
No, it's fresh. Like, fresh produce, like farmer's market. So I was fresh, never frozen. He donated that day. That day it went into my mom. So what ended up happening was my mom was ovulating on a holiday weekend, specifically Rosh Hashanah. So the clinic was closed. And this was after she just had a full reconstruction surgery. This was like she was ovulating for the first time. And so what the doctor organized was for the donor to drop off the fresh sperm at a hotel concierge. She would then go pick it up and inseminate it with her husband.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I mean, we have so many ethical issues here. Like, I'm willing to bet because he didn't take an STD test that day. I'm willing to bet money on the fact that he didn't take an STD test. What did he do? Take an STD test at home? Did he have a rapid test at home? He didn't take an STD test that day, and it was donated that day.
Were
it was
you
fresh.
connected through? What were you connected through? The bank?
No, it was a clinic. It was just a clinic, not a bank. And so that's why I'm like, he had to have called a buddy because also their offices were like really close to one another. And he called his buddy up and said, dude, can you just drop off some fresh sperm at this hotel, please? And my patient will come pick it up. He dropped it off in a little paper bag. My mom waited, grabbed it, went to my father's office, and that's where I was inseminated.
Now, like, I've heard stuff that's like really informal like that before, but that's because like they were foregoing the clinic thing and they were just like doing it themselves, right? Like I had someone on here many years ago who she actually invented the first like medical grade strap-on dildo for the purpose of like inseminating. So like she inseminated, like she impregnated her wife like 2 or 3 times with this thing. Basically, the tubing would be like the higher grade.
Okay.
Some people were using like ejaculating dildos, but it's not like as good quality. And she was doing this like medical grade version of all of it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But like they're doing it informally. I think like they got the sperm from a friend, and like they didn't have no in betweens. And I think everyone should have a right to make do all that stuff if they want to. But if they're going through some intermediary,
well, I would say that you're totally like, I'm all for using like a friend, and if you do go outside of the industry, like okay. But here's the problem: is you have to do it. You have to make sure it's a legal donor conception, because if you don't make it a legal donor conception, then custody can come in. You could have a custody battle on your hands.
So that's like a piece of paperwork to do in the process.
So all of it, it depends on your state, because all states have different laws regarding this. Because there are some states where you have to have it overseen by a licensed physician. Otherwise, it's not considered a legal donor conception.
Okay.
So what this means is beforehand, you have to hire a lawyer. Your donor has to also have representation. Contracts have to be drawn up as per your state laws. You need to make sure that both of the raising parents are on the birth certificate. The donor obviously is not. Second parent adoption needs to take place. The donor needs to make sure that his parental rights are fully waived. Like there's a lot of things like that need to take place. So there has to be a contract in place.
Gotcha.
And even if and it goes for family as well and friends, like especially because even if like hypothetically, like let's say you used your friend and your friend is like great, they're awesome, they're wonderful. Let's say though that friend dies. His parents, especially given what state they're in, and if you're in like a same-sex relationship, you're in a queer relationship, those parents within their mourning could realize, oh shit, we could potentially get our grandkid. That's some access. That's the only thing left of our son, and we're going to get custody of that child. And if you didn't put in the proper legal shit in place, they could have claim to your child, especially if you're in a state that is, I would say, more notorious for queer-phobic legislation.
Yeah. And you're saying, like, make sure it's a legal donor conception, not as something like you must or else, but rather like to protect yourself, do these things.
Oh yeah, no, to protect yourself and your child.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can't DIY child custody. Like you can't do that. And it's not about like, again, like I want people to make their families in the way that they want to make them. I'm all for that. I love that. And yeah, and like and that's great. And I love a known donor. Known donors are like number one priority. That's my favorite. But you have to do it legally and you have to do it safely, because also there's a lot of quote unquote known donors who stalk and prey on Facebook groups, and these guys are literal fucking predators. And so you also have to ensure that you've done everything legally safe in case you end up accidentally using one of these guys, because it's just, this shit can get real shady really fast.
I mean, so did your donor daddy have like any sort of like malintent, or was this just, hey, we need some sperm, the bank's closed?
I think this guy just wanted to make a buck.
I was like, we only get like $50 for the sperm, something like that, right? That's the number I always hear.
No, it's usually $100 to $150 per donation for sperm is usually the going rate.
But then the insemination procedure is like how much?
So, well, it depends. Are we talking about IUI? Are we talking about IVF? I mean, there's lots of different kinds of procedures.
I remember saying how much the whole thing, like how much the clinic got and then how much the sperm person got. And I thought, record profits equals stolen wages.
It's actually, I guarantee you it's far worse than what you think. So let me break it down, because it's even worse. So when as a sperm donor, you get paid about $100 to $150 per donation. That singular donation does not equate to one sellable vial. They break that up into multiple sellable vials, depending on the mass in which you can donate and on how fertile you are. So sorry, the real clinical way you just like described a heavy comer. Well, again, I do this. I literally have to do this with politicians.
Yeah, you're like,
so I have it very, very carefully. So yeah, I mean, if you produce a lot of cum, like they break it up into a lot of different vials.
Now speaking our language. No, I'm kidding.
So basically, so we've heard as, some donations are split up into 3 sellable vials. We've also heard as much as 19. So again, and vials can easily run up to $2,000 each. So that donor is getting $100 to $150, and they're selling each of those, 10 vials for $2,000 each? And a lot of these banks say you have to buy at minimum of like 3 to 4 vials.
And sometimes they'll charge more, like based on the background of the donor, if they know that.
They'll charge more based on the race.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is a very racist eugenics industry.
Adoption's like that, too.
Absolutely, it is. Yes. So we also, like, I have spoken to, like, recipient parents of color who can't end up finding donors that match, like, their ethnicity, and they end up having to choose a white donor. We also have spoken to, like, black recipient parents who, like, are able to find, like, the 1 out of, like, 2 black donors that are available at that bank, and that black donor costs more than their white counterparts. We also, if you really want to do a deep dive into this, go look into Dr. Diane Tober. She's the only one studying egg donation side effects and how egg donors are treated. And in her research, she has found it on average that Black and Hispanic egg donors are paid less than white and Asian egg donors. I mean, it's racist as fuck. And yeah, they will absolutely price donors based off of their education, abilities, all of these things. Like, they will price you higher. And it's ridiculous. And then they'll nickel and dime you everywhere they can. You have to pay extra to see a photo of the donor, to see their handwriting, to get their medical history. I mean, it's like literally.
I feel like
ridiculous.
the medical history should come just part and parcel.
You would think. Not every bank agrees. Some of them you have to pay extra for that. But also the medical history, honestly, is as useful as confetti. It's not reliable in the least bit. And that's a big thing that people don't realize. All the medical history that a donor hands in the United States, none of it is verified. It's all self-reported. The biggest recruitment place for donors is college campuses and universities. It's like 19-year-old frat boys. Yeah. They're not exactly known for their honesty. Like, I don't mean to stereotype, but they're not. And so they literally are asking these 19-year-olds, like, hey, what's your family history of breast cancer? And they know if they say, like, well, my aunt and my mom were diagnosed with breast cancer, they're not going to be picked as a donor. So they go, none. And it's not like the bank is going to call that kid's mom and go, hey, what's your family history? They're not calling their general practitioner to go, what medications is this donor on? This
guy's 19. He's very viral. You know, he's 19 vials worth.
He's 19 vials worth. We love that. And especially, you know, if he is a 6-foot white on the football team, blue-eyed, oh, yeah, they're going to sell that kid like crazy. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the poster of her husband with, we're a couple blue-eyed boys.
You guys are some blue-eyed boys. But yeah, I mean, it's very clear if you go through any kind of donor catalog, you'll see how many specifically white Christian donors that's the majority of what they are selling. There's a horrible diversity problem. In the United States right now, only 2 to 5% of active donors are Black. Like, it's really bad.
And why do you think that is? Is that a recruitment thing, or is there something about that community that doesn't want to participate in that? Or
that is a complex question.
Sure.
So one, the entire donor conception was founded on eugenics. That is, and it's still white supremacy, eugenics, ableism is still so interwoven into donor conception and the fertility industry itself. It's very classist as well. It's a very intersectional issue, weirdly enough, and that was something like going into it I had no idea until you really start peeling back those onion layers. So there is a history of all of these places being basically saying, no, we don't want you, because there's no anti-discrimination laws. So they literally are choosing who and who isn't allowed to procreate. So there is a history of them turning away donors. And for obvious reasons, people of color, specifically the Black community, have issues trusting, medical communities, which, if you pick up a history book, you understand why. On top of which, though, the cryobanks still show tremendous racism. So even if a hypothetical maybe donor of color walks through the door and they see the very obvious problems, they're going to walk right on out because those are red flags. For example, I showed this in one of my podcast episodes, Insemination. I didn't even realize this, but a genetic counselor showed me this. Seattle Sperm Bank, up until 2022, how they racially categorized all their donors. They don't do it anymore, but they did do it up until 2022 or 2021, early 2020s. Let's just say that for right now. But I believe it's 2022, but I might be wrong. But how they categorized donors were, they said you had the option of being Caucasian, Black/Black, Asian/yellow, other/red. You're a donor, you see that, you're gonna go, what the fuck? And you're gonna walk out. Another one was, so I posted that episode and I had a recipient parent biracial couple get in touch with me and they're like, Laura, you think that's bad? Wait till you see this donor profile we were given. And I was like, oh no. So they were specifically looking for a black donor because the non-genetic parent is black and they wanted to find a donor that matched them. That's usually what recipient parents do. So they were having a really hard time because the industry is motherfucking racist. And they finally found, I believe it was 2 black donors at this cryobank. Hold on one second. Let me make sure that, hold on. We're going to make sure, no, because I want to make sure I have my years right because I'm going to name a bank and I just want to make sure that like I'm naming it accurately so I don't get sued.
And then I don't get sued by proxy for broadcasting such libelous, slanderous speech.
All making sure we don't get sued. Where did you go?
I'm still at a place in my career where I'm like, you know what? Go ahead. What do you want? My old Toyota?
I know.
Come on out.
Well, the thing about, as I find this, you have to remember that the industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that profits off of the little creation of sentient human beings. So do remember that. Okay, I know it's on my laptop here. I just want to make sure. I believe it is 2022. No, I know it was 2022. I know that.
Y'all remember about like 40 minutes ago, she was like, I fixate on things?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, no. People literally, I've been asked recently, they're like, wow, Laura, how have you done all this research? How have you done all of this? And I'm like, autism. Yeah. Never fucking mess with anybody who hyperfixates. Like, we will be the end of you. Where the fuck is that profile? I'm going to fucking find it. It's gonna piss me.
I know you are. I believe in you.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna find it, but until I do, wait, is this it? Yes. Okay. Yep. It was the Midwest Cryobank. Okay, so Midwest Cryobank. In 2022, they were sent this profile. So in 2022, the Midwest Cryobank racially categorized the donor's family because it had like all of his family members, and they racially categorized all of them as mulatto.
Whose great grandfather is making the forms? They wrote red, and I'm like, we can't even call a football team that anymore. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up so you can see it, so you can see that how absolutely... Yeah, so as I always say, like, if these are the things that these cryobanks are absolutely willing to say publicly and put on official medical documents, I can't even imagine what these people do behind closed doors. I don't even... Yeah, so there you can kind of go, see? Right there.
It says mulatto.
Yeah. No.
I haven't seen the word mulatto written in...
I haven't heard it used since, like, freaking Showboat. Yeah.
It says Showboat. That is absolutely wild. And so you've been meeting with various unnamed politicians to have reform.
Yes.
And what kind of reform is needed?
Literally almost anything. So we've
because this feels like it could be maybe bipartisan.
It is, actually, weirdly enough. So what is bipartisan is actually fertility fraud legislation. So fertility fraud is the act of a doctor switching out the chosen donor or partner gametes with their own or any other that they feel like. We have caught 80 doctors doing this. None of them have gone to jail. The laws are so loose in our country that some of the doctors are able to continue practicing medicine afterwards.
Are they swapping out with like their own sperm?
Yeah.
Some sort of like God complex thing?
It's disgusting. I mean, it's medical rape. This is absolutely sexual assault. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to pass HR 451. It is bipartisan. I believe we have about 50 co-signatories at this point, and it's moving along beautifully. And what this bill does, it's very narrowly tailored. And that's something that like we really work hard at making sure that our bills are, because we do understand that we are actively...
When you say we and our, who?
I'm talking to like donor conceived advocates.
Okay.
But specifically for us, we have become very hyper aware that because of the time that we're in, we have to be careful because we are asking for regulations to assistant reproductive technology. And we all know that there are a lot of people in this country who are trying to do that for very insidious reasons. So the reason that we work very hard at making very narrowly tailored bills is to make sure that these bills that we are doing only can apply to exactly what we are trying to do and cannot be used for any other kind of nefarious purpose. So that's something we really work hard at doing with all of our bills. So fertility fraud legislation, HR 451, would criminalize fertility fraud, and it would put in a 10-year statute of limitation, because fertility fraud is different than any other medical fraud.
You don't find out probably for a long time.
Exactly. If you had surgery and somebody left a sponge in you, you're going to find that out pretty fast. If you're a victim of fertility fraud, you're not going to find out for like probably 30 years. Therefore, any kind of statute of limitation that we would have in for any other kind of medical fraud, it's gone. It just, we can't. That's why doctors get away with it so easily. So we have in this 10-year statute of limitation put in upon finding out you're a victim. So that gives you 10 years to build a case, find a pattern, be able to decide, like, I want to do something.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. But we've had 14 states now pass fertility fraud legislation. We still face opposition to it, which is...
What is the opposition?
The opposition usually is it doesn't happen anymore, so we don't need it, which is ludicrous to say that it doesn't happen anymore. There's no proof of that. The laws have changed so little, and all they've watched is doctors get away with it. Of course it's still happening. Of course it is. No one has stopped sexually assaulting each other.
Right.
Of course it's still happening. And I find that the people who do say that, it's like you're literally endangering recipient parents. Like you're literally like leading them to the chopping block. I find it to be some of the most, I get so angry when I hear that.
You know, and knowing you and, you know, seniors, you know, like I know that's it's a topic out there, sperm donor stuff, but then like seeing the TikToks, I didn't realize it was as big and fucking crazy an issue.
Yeah.
You know, the most you think of like, oh, someone having the same donor dad too many times. Oh my gosh, I actually married my like 1/18th cousin or something. But this is, you know, this gets to a little more evil territory.
It is, but I mean, like we have sibling pods of half siblings of over 100 kids each, because these cryobanks just pump out these kids. Like,
do you know how many
Skittles.
you got? Is it still just the 3 or?
Right now I am one of 6 identified, but because my sibling pod range is 8 years, and we know he actively donated for at least 6.
Does he like cop to it?
We believe that we probably have closer to 50 siblings, given the information that we have.
And we know Dave's not one of them.
No, he took a DNA test before we got engaged.
For real?
Yeah. There's a video of it.
Now, whose idea was it?
Oh, both of us were like, no, we're doing
I didn't know if this was one of his like many sweet things he came up with.
No, we both were, after the work that I've been doing, we were just like, we're not fucking trying after everything that I've seen.
Do y'all plan to do kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because, hey, what's a little bit incest? So long as there's no kids involved. I don't know, whatever.
Well, I will say the victims of incest from donor conception who have come forward are like, well, that was traumatizing.
Yeah.
It's very traumatizing, yeah.
I in my patron only channel on Discord, Ask the Guest, I did get a question in. It's not my question, so if it's a bad question, wasn't my idea. If it's a good question, I wish it was mine. And maybe we can kind of close with this. Chuck wanted to know, we've covered you're not his daughter, because he was a sperm donor. But he says, does she feel like we're spending too much money, time, and resources on enabling cis-het couples who can't conceive, have children? Does she think there's anything problematic with this? And I'll be honest, I don't entirely understand the question.
I think I understand what he's saying. So donor conception, as of now, about 60% of the revenue comes from the queer community. So actually the majority of the revenue comes from the queer community. So I would say just by that alone, more of it is actually... But I think I'm trying to figure out like how to answer that. I am a full believer in assisted reproductive technology. I'm pro donor conception. I want people to make their families the way that they want to make them. And donor conception can be a great way for queer individuals, single by choice, and for couples struggling with infertility. Where I think we need to put the energy and the resources now is, one, actually doing the research, the real research, to ensure that it is child-centered. That's what we have to do. It is a massively profitable industry. We could be spending a lot of that money making it a lot more ethical. I would say like that's where more of the funds right now should be going. I also think that we should be spending much more time holding those accountable within the industry who have done some incredibly horrific acts, such as fertility fraud, falsifying medical information, making sibling pods of hundreds of kids. That needs to be, and obviously all of the racism and white supremacy, we have to put safeguards in place to ensure that, and transparency to ensure that that is just, we cannot fucking do that. And the reason that that is imperative is that, as I've said, this is an industry that doesn't make chairs, it doesn't make tables. They make literal children. They make a pocket of our next generation of children. So this group has to be held to the literal highest standards. So I would say, so I hope I answered that question, but it was a little bit of a tough question to answer. I hope I answered it right. I think that there's a certain thing when it comes to donor conception, when it comes to fertility, and this also relates to the adoptee community as well. I think everyone has the right to go out to try and build their family whatever way they want. Like, I fully believe that. As long as you also understand on top of it, nobody is owed a child.
Right. When you said child-centered, it made me think, so is there a little bit too much emphasis on like someone's parental rights? Like, so
no. Okay. So I see what that means. So basically how the current fertility industry stands is, again, they are as literally as untransparent as you can possibly be, because that allows them, they have this massive veil of secrecy because they're like, we don't want you knowing what's going on in the back room. But it also is like how the fertility industry is set up is it is currently set up to protect sort of the nuclear family structure.
Right.
That's why anonymity exists. Anonymity of donors is not to protect recipient parents. It's not to protect donors, and it's not to protect donor-conceived people. The vast majority of donor-conceived people want anonymity to end. A lot of countries have deemed anonymity unethical, such as Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, Norway, the Netherlands, the UK, Germany. All of them have banned it. Even the UN is like, everyone has the right to know who their genetic parents are. Everyone says that. And for us, knowing and having access to who our donor is literally can provide life-saving, updated medical information. The anonymity allows total veil of secrecy, so we can't catch the fertility industry in their mistakes, and it protects the idea of the nuclear family, which, we all know is like fucking bullshit. And it does protect the idea of like heteronormativity. That's what it does. And so the idea is, let's no longer do anonymity. The recipient parent has absolutely the right to meet the donor ahead of time. The donor absolutely has the right to meet the recipient parents ahead of time. Now, the raising parents are the raising parents, and it's not about encroaching on the raising parents. I don't believe the donor should have the right to anything parental with the kid. Like, it doesn't have parental rights to the kid, but there should be open access of communication. I will say, like, one agency that I work with a lot with advocacy, their name is, they're Seed Scout. I love them. They're fabulous. It's a small business. It's these two amazing, it's run by two wives. They went to the industry. They hated it. They were like, this is all fucked up. And then being a pediatrician and an attorney, were like, we can make something better. And they made a known donor matching agency where it's only known donors from birth, and both the donor and the recipient parent meet each other ahead of time. They both have to consent to the match, which I love. They don't turn away any donor for any kind of medical difference. So I love they're getting rid of the eugenics aspect. All they care about is that the recipient parent gets fully informed consent. And that also, because of that, makes the donors, it gives them safety to be way more honest with the recipient parent, knowing I'm not going to be turned down for a medical difference. I mean, they do a hell of a background check on donors to ensure that, like, these donors are doing it for the right reasons. They do psych evaluations, stuff like that. But the difference that you can tell that these recipients have, and by the way, I'm not paid by them. This is me just saying this out of my own love and free will for these amazing, amazing women who run this, is that the difference, the recipient parents are like, holy shit, this is so much better. And they feel so much better about this. Because so many recipient parents who use an anonymous donor basically like to pretend like the donor didn't exist. And they're like, we don't don't talk about that. But this way, the recipient parents are like, I would love if my child showed attributes and features of that donor. I love this donor. And the donor becomes their friend a lot of the time. The women, Danielle and Paige, who founded this organization, are really good friends with their donor. And he sees the kid from time to time, and they have a beautiful relationship with them. And they're like, why wouldn't we? He's wonderful. Why would we not want a donor who we don't love? Of course that's what we'd want. He's literally the biological parent of our child. We want someone who we love. But the biological parent, the donor doesn't have any parental rights. They ensured of that. They made sure everything was legally sound. And he just kind of like comes in every once in a while and is like, hey, cute kid, everything's good. Everything's awesome. And that's wonderful. And it's much more child-centered because now the kid has updated medical history. He can genetic mirror. He can know his biological origins. So there's no like up in the air questions about identity. And he kind of is going to most likely probably have a relationship with the donor as like a fun uncle that comes around every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, Laura, you're doing incredible work. I didn't even know it was an issue, and then the awareness thing works because I was unaware, and now I'm aware.
Yeah, I mean it's all about making this ethical and child-centered. Yeah. That's all that like my goal is, and making it from a much more kind perspective.
Sure. And I'm also very happy about, it was nice to get some more backstory on that because I was just like, those fucking two goofy weirdo comics, fucking found each other. Great, good for them. I had no idea all of that backstory. Yeah. As well as some other things, and You gave me goosebumps sharing your story. I mean, thank you for that.
Oh my God, my pleasure. And Dave is just, he's so fantastic. He really is. And it really was this moment of, because I was a very like cynical person by that point. And then I met him and I was just like, oh, happiness exists. No way.
Yes, it does.
It does exist. So shit. He's just the best. And he's wonderful.
Well, Laura, where can people go to find you, follow you, and peek at the lovebirds?
100%.
Y'all do TikToks together.
We do TikToks every once in a while together. So I'm at Laura High Five on both Instagram and TikTok. Laura High on YouTube, Laura High on Facebook, at Laura High on Threads.
And is that Laura High Five, the spelled 5 or with the number 5?
Number 5.
The number 5. Okay, fantastic.
And it's High as in HIGH, which is my government legal name.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Everyone always wonders. They're like, is that your fucking real name? I'm like, yes. I did not choose that fucking thing. It chose me. More ethical.
And you have the podcast, Insemination.
Insemination. Yeah. That is my podcast.
Well, thanks a lot. Congrats on all the success. I don't think I've seen you in a couple years since like Rooftop at Tiny. At
Tiny Covered, yes.
Yeah. Rip those rooftop shows. But, I'm glad to see everything's going so well and glad you are so happy. It's good stuff. Why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. You're all lovely and fantastic and amazing. And go drink water. Go drink water. That's good for you, right? And you matter. Yeah, that's how I'm signing off. Go drink water and you matter.
I thought you TikTokers say go touch grass.
Well, that's when we're angry at somebody.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. When somebody's
I thought it was like a thing of concern, like, oh, go touch some grass.
No, that's like an insult.
Is it like bless your heart?
No, it's like if somebody's like being like fucking weird or something and you're just like in like off the wall, you're like, go touch some fucking grass. Or like go kick rocks. Like it's in that same vein.
Learn new things every day, everybody.
Yeah, I've never, I guess you could use it in a way of like, honey, go touch some grass. It's okay. You can. I've never seen it used that way.
Fantastic. Wait. Don't go just yet because I actually have more content for you. Isn't that crazy? It's a free podcast and I'm going to give you more content. What? Yes. There's a bonus episode that I released over the weekend. It's almost an hour of me talking about my various first times. I'm going to play a teaser clip for you in just a bit. Just hold on one second, okay? Just don't. Yeah, it's fine. Just let the thing keep playing. As usual, you can email me your comments, your questions, your titty pictures, your whatever about the show to manwhorepod@gmail.com. I think I just almost stepped on some glass. What are you from? And is there more of you laying around on this floor? That's concerning. And 2 hairpins? Okay, those definitely are not mine. manwhorepod@gmail.com. In fact, you can go to manwhorepod.com for all your Man Whore podcast needs. You want to see my upcoming stand-up comedy dates? You want to buy some merch? We got stickers, we got buttons, shirts, all sorts of fun goodies over there. And of course, the best way to support the work that I do is on Patreon. Become a member today for as little as $3 a month at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Every dollar counts. And if you're enjoying the work that I do, I would enjoy if you would show that appreciation with your currency coupons. If you do not like the Patreon platform, by the way, friendly reminder that in the notes, you can always find my Venmo, my Cash App. I think my PayPal's in there. And if you want to support the pod, but you actually also want to read books, my bookshop.org store link is in there. And all purchases you make through that link, I get a cut on the back end. We love bookshop.org. They hook you up with books from independent bookstores that then support independent podcasters. Anyways, like I said before, I'm going to play a little teaser clip from a bonus episode I just put out on Patreon. It is available to all of my $5 and up members. Me talking about, well, my first times. Hope you had fun. Hope you will, subscribe, rate, review, unless you're going to give a bad review or give less than 5 stars, and you can skip that part, but definitely hit the subscribe button. I hope wherever you are, the weather is as good as it is for me right now. Makes it a good time to go outside in a only semi-public location to stay slutty. We've circled her and we're naked and she's on her knees and she's looking up and she's looking at all the dicks and she's got this big smile on her face. It's a great sign because you're like, I know that this is what you want because you look so happy right now. And she's looking at all these dicks. She's like, I don't know. And she says, which one do I suck first? Which should I suck first? And she looks up at me, who has been on a journey of being told, not only will women not love you, no woman's going to touch you. Not only is no one going to fuck you, but no one's going to love you either because love and fucking are tied together and you, Billy, are going to be a 40-year-old virgin. And here I am, my dick out, near other dicks out with I can't stress it enough, babe, one of the hottest women I'd been with up until that time. Older woman, right? Because she might, and older, who knows? She must have been in her 30s. She owned the brownstone, to give you an idea. And she's looking up at me, and I'm the youngest guy there. I'm 21 years old. And she says, takes her hand, she runs it kind of up and down my chest and goes, something about being young, dumb, and full of cum. And then she swallows me. Oh.